What's been consistent for Oracle is to be a platform provider that helps organizations unlock the full value of their data. And today, it is all about AI and unlocking the value of your data in AI. And cloud, I think, is a mandatory enabler. With AI and then agentic AI, you think about it, an agent is effectively an employee. It's an automated employee, it's a process, it's a workflow. Well, you want your employees to be within your ecosystem, within your firewall. So I think more and more with AI, you're going to see there's a need to bring it closer and closer home, so that your data residency is no longer going to be at the country, but it might just be within the enterprise. AI thrives at the edge because that's where inference is at the edge. We're the only player that plays in all four tiers of the stack today. High-powered infrastructure that pretty much all the frontier models train on. We have a data pedigree to bring all of the data into the fold of AI. We have a rich set of applications that, basically powers industries today: banking, telco, utilities, construction, etc., healthcare. And we have an agentic framework that ties all of these things together.
Welcome to Analyse podcast, the premier podcast dedicated to dissecting the pulse of business, technology, and media globally. I'm Bernard Leong, and Oracle has been in the headlines on AI and data centers. But today, we're diving how Oracle is shaping the next generation of enterprise AI across the region of Asia Pacific and Japan. With me today is Chris Chelliah, Senior Vice President, Technology and Customer Strategy, Japan and Asia Pacific at Oracle. So, Chris, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us post Oracle AI World 2025. I bet it must be exciting in Las Vegas.
Well, thank you, Bernard. Yes, recovering from the jet lag, extremely excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we also have that pre-lunch chat about discussing what is coming. Of course, as of all guests on the show, I always want to find out about their origin story. So how did your career journey begin, and what led you into the world of enterprise technology?
Well, let's see. I'm a bit of a geek. So computer science and math was sort of my background. In my research thesis, postgrad was on distributed database. Java was emerging when I was sort of just coming out of university. So the world was moving from sort of client server to the internet, right? So the problem of the day in that era was surfacing data that used to be inside an enterprise, to the internet. So doing that securely across the big, wide internet. So at that point in time, the Oracle database was portable across platforms. Java as a language was portable across platforms, and both were central to the internet era, right? So as an engineer, which engineer doesn't love a problem like that to solve, right? So we see a lot of parallels today in the AI world, but that's kind of how I started, my background before I joined Oracle.
So over the years, you've held various leadership roles across Oracle globally. What drew you to your current position leading technology and customer strategy in Japan and Asia Pacific?
Well, technology is definitely in my blood. I think I'm a bit of a tinkerer by nature, I think would be the best way to describe me. My home's been running Linux, and people go like, yeah, so what? Lots of people do. But my home's been running Linux since the late 90s. So, I've pretty much always got at least a half a dozen projects on the go that I'm sort of tinkering with and working with. So for me, Oracle was a bit of a natural place. It encouraged innovation. We have a mantra of always being sort of customer zero. When I joined Oracle, it was a very early nascent database company. And so using this technology and being able to be customer zero of all of this emerging technology and then taking that to enterprise scale, that was definitely interesting. I joined Oracle back in Perth, Western Australia, but I've worked with Oracle across Oracle in the UK, in France and Sweden, in the Bay Area for at least 3-4 years, and then back in Singapore for a good 15 odd years. But probably three things that drew me back, to this sort of role. So number one, obviously it's family. I had to come back closer to home. The second is the potential in this market, right? The potential in this market. We have 2/3 of the world's population in Asia Pacific and Japan. And this population is digital native. It's a digital native generation, right? It's a huge opportunity there. And the third thing, like I said, is technology just gets me out of bed every day. I'm super excited with it. So it was a good combination to bring me back to do technology in this part of the market.
So from your diverse experience, what are the key lessons you can share with my audience on your career journey?
Listen, I think there's a couple of things, and I say this to new hires and when I'm interviewing, into the organization as well, find your passion wherever you're going to go. And like I said, I happen to be a tinkerer, and Oracle happened to have areas that I could play with. So certainly find your passion. If in our Oracle, we're in fintech and construction and biotech, you name it. Find something that would excite you to give more than your best every day. Right. The second, I think, is I always tell folks, you own your own career, you own your own brand. Yes, a company has a culture and a company has tools and processes and certain segments that they work in. But when I speak to my team or my new hires, I let them know that, all of those things, culture, tools, processes, segments, are just, colors in a color palette, if you like, right? But you have the job of converting that color palette into a painting of the persona that you become in the organization. And there's a few truisms I always say. If you keep the customer in focus, right, you keep Oracle as a second in focus, and then you keep your line of business as a third in focus, you can paint where you fit in all of that if you have the right passion. And the last thing I always tell my team is, use what you have. Oracle's a big company. If you're in a startup, you might have a different set of tools that you work with. Use what you have. So grab every opportunity. I sometimes say I've worked for like 4 different startup companies, right? Because they all happen to be called Oracle, but I was in a startup database business. I was in a startup applications business when Oracle got into that. I was in a startup sort of hardware business when Oracle got into that. And then I was in the startup cloud and AI business when Oracle got into that. So 4 startup businesses in one company called Oracle.
Amazing. So we're going to get to the main subject of the day. We're going to talk about Oracle's AI and multi-cloud strategy post the AI World 2025. So I always know Oracle lurks in the background with all things related to enterprise. Can you provide an overview of Oracle, the global vision and mission, and the business footprint across Asia Pacific and Japan?
Yeah. Listen, one thing that's been very, very consistent with Oracle over the last 40, almost 50 years that we've been in business, right? It is really about helping organizations unlock the full value of data. And, like I said, we've been through different genres. There was there's the client server genre, there was the internet genre, there's the cloud genre, and now we're in the AI genre. But what's been consistent for Oracle is to be a platform provider that helps organizations unlock the full value of their data. Right. And today, it is all about AI and unlocking the value of your data in AI. And cloud, I think, is a mandatory enabler. Right. So that's kind of, the overall mission and vision for Oracle. And we want to provide our customers with everything that they need to unlock this potential. Right. We've been in this market, JPAC, since 1988. So we're not a new kid on the block. Right. We power critical infrastructure in the region. Pretty much every bank, telco, utility, power grid is powered by Oracle, right, underneath the scenes. And we're continuously innovating and growing, right? So that also serves, if you think about it, I think we've got close to 47,000 customers in JPAC. We're still growing, 44% year-on-year consumption growth last year, 12 cloud regions, another 14 dedicated cloud regions. So, we're here in that mission, continuously growing. And I think we play a big part already today in Japan and Asia Pacific. With AI and the inference opportunity that's there at the edge, I think, that's only going to get bigger. And we're really looking forward to that.
I want to cut to the chase. So what are the key takeaways and major announcements that came out from the recent Oracle AI World 2025? I think specifically on Agentic AI data platform and things that related to multi-cloud, or even other news that may be of interest to everyone else here listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think let's start with the headline. AI changes everything. Okay. We get that. We hear that. Yeah. And that's why Oracle sort of delivers AI everywhere. So if I were to tagline is AI changes everything. And so we're delivering AI everywhere. And as you notice, we rebranded Oracle Cloud World to Oracle AI World just for our commitment across every layer of the stack. I think there's a number of things, a number of components that we bring together. Let me stack this out for you, right? So first thing is, I think, let's start at the bottom of the stack, the infrastructure. Well, AI is underpinned by infrastructure, and AI thrives at the edge, especially when you get to inference. So I think, there's some significant announcements that we made around infrastructure, around what we're doing with networking and making that just hugely scalable and reliable. That is a big part of this platform. The second layer of that is, AI we know is fueled by data. And you mentioned it earlier, the AI data platform briefly, right? So we'll talk about that, I'm sure, going through, but we made some significant announcements of how we're able to basically reach into all of your data without disrupting what you have in place today. The third layer on top of this, I think, as a key takeaway is a rich set of applications that are going to have AI embedded in them. So, AI doesn't always have to be, I have to build something. You should be able to use something out of the box as well. So there's a rich set of applications. And then there's the fourth layer on top of that. That's called the orchestration, which is our agent and an agentic marketplace. And we made some significant announcements there as well. So what we will surface out of the box through our applications, you can agentify, and we can have partners agentify, but you can also build using the other components, the data layer and the infrastructure layer. And I think what came out and resonated really loudly is we're very unique in having all of those tiers of the stack, yet not mandating that you need all to start. You could start at any one of those tiers, or you could use some or all of those tiers. And I think that's unique. And that came out loud and clear in AI Law last week.
As a former customer, I probably have encountered at least two applications, and definitely one is the Oracle databases for infrastructure when I was a chief digital officer. And then I encountered Aconex in the construction when I was working as a CIO. So
Yes.
So you almost covered now every stack. So with the recent launch of the AI data platform, can you break down what it does and how do you help customers to move from now raw data to production grade AI?
Yeah, you talked about it earlier about Oracle being in the enterprise space, right? Enterprise doesn't have to be big enterprise, by the way. It could be small and emerging enterprises as well. So I want to be very clear on that. Oracle's not just for big organizations; it's across the board. But when you're engaging in enterprise, I think it's different from engaging a consumer. When you're engaging in enterprise, you've got to say, what problem are you trying to solve? And when people talk about data platforms for AI, go and do a search today on any of your favorite AI chat engines. Just search for, why should I look for a new data platform for AI? Right? Go and do that, and you'll find out that it's very, very common. The pain points, it's about addressing real time. It's about addressing flexibility. It's about addressing security. Organizations, enterprises have got multiple types of data, structured and unstructured and document, etc. They're trying to do different types of analytics. They've got lake houses. They want to do some graph. They want to do some streaming. They've got different types of workloads. There's AI workloads. There's IoT, blockchain, distributed data. They've got all of these things in place today, right? And what we set out to do is we said, how can we address that? Because you need to address the problem and help our customers. So the AI data platform is there. It's about that. It's about addressing the direct need that customers have for a platform that brings all of this together. It focuses on the outcome. So it's all about accelerating analytics and AI, not about a particular product. It's all about using as much as you can that you already have in-house versus saying, bring something to re-aggregate, right? So regardless of where your data is, on premises, in Oracle applications, third-party SaaS applications, on my cloud or on a third-party cloud, what we offer with the AI data platform is the ability to ingest, to process, and serve this data using a single security and a single governance model. So you don't have to rip and replace your house, your tooling, your skill sets, right? Seamlessly across applications, across infrastructure. And I think that's unique because none of the other hyperscalers provide something that is as wide-reaching as that, but it's not just wide-reaching in terms of data types. It's in the north-south. It's also reaching into the application stack that we have. So I think that takes away a big fear that customers have around why, or answers the question they have on why do I need a new data platform today? And I think we address a lot of those areas.
And then that also ties in very much into the artificial intelligence when we talk about AI agents. So the expansion of now you have Oracle AI Agent Studio and also the launch of the AI Agent Marketplace. I think that's a pretty big step in terms of enterprise AI adoption. Maybe the much more fundamental question here is, what problems is Oracle trying to solve with these new offerings?
Yeah, listen, we think, AI is so big and it's so pervasive that I think it's going to solve a problem today, which is actually going to open up 5 more problems to solve tomorrow. Because every time the nature of us is we're as human beings, we're never satisfied, right? So we solve a problem and you go, oh, cool, but there's 5 other things I can solve and I want to solve 5 more things. And then those 5 are going to give you another 5. So I think it's going to be us being able to then collect and not reinvent the wheel each time. So with the AI agent Studio is the ability to give you some endpoints that are already created, some agents that are already created out of the box that you can then extend naturally, right? And the marketplace, we extend that to our partners as well. So our partners who are implementing solutions, who may have specific domain knowledge to bring that IP to the platform and enhance and add, into the agent ecosystem that you have. And the more agents you have, the more, think about it in the old days, as my kids would sometimes say, in the dinosaur age, when we used to do, data integration, right? We used to do data integration and point-to-point integrations. Well, agentic integration is, and in autonomous agents, it's just a higher level of abstraction of that. And when you used to do point-to-point integration, what was really important was you need to have an adapter. If you remember the old days, you needed an adapter to connect from app A to app B, right? And the more adapters you had, the better the integration platform was. It's the same with agents. The bigger your agent, the easier it is to have agents pop out of the box through the applications. And the bigger your marketplace is, the more successful this is. And like I said, I think this is just going to feed a wave of new applications being built with AI.
Just a very clear exposition of how you broke down the agentic AI systems from, say, a traditional enterprise automation tooling from the point-to-point viewpoint.
Yeah.
So we've seen Oracle AI agents now being deployed across finance and supply chain. Can you walk us through some real-world use cases that actually may have some measurable business impact, currently probably at pilot stage, or maybe even some of them in production stage as well?
Yeah. So, and the good news is, they are working in pilot, they are working in production. I can't mention all of the names, because, customers want to go through their validation, etc. You already mentioned, the finance use cases, whether that's looking at sophisticated fraud schemes or making sure you're meeting all of the regulatory scrutiny that you need. We have capability like Investigation Hub to analyze alerts and matches between customer data, sanction lists, etc., etc. So fintech and financial, massive number of use cases there. Supply chain, you already talked about that as well. Whether it's about maintenance advisor, whether it's about using real-time image recognition for quality control or for branching of workloads. We've also seen it being used in, as diverse as agriculture, right? In optimizing, planting and optimizing harvesting decisions, integrating satellite imagery and IoT sensors to make sure that, we can best use fertilizer, so to increase the yield and also, reduce costs. And also you don't want fertilizer going where it doesn't need to go. So precision spraying. In healthcare, we've seen, reduction in times for documentation. So physicians being able to talk to you without having to take notes or without having to then annotate that. So just ability to not just talk, not just listen, but also to annotate and also make recommendations in healthcare, right? So reducing documentation time, annotation, but also in the use in detection, whether that's, lung nodules or breast cancer detection. So we've seen agents, being used, like I said, it's the art of the possible. Right. We've seen it being used in environmental applications to monitor things like microclimate change. So I think, like I said, for every problem we solve, we're going to open 5 more to solve. And the pace of which problems surface and we resolve it is just going to increase. And it's going to be a massive flywheel. And I think for all of us as human beings, I think, the quality of life, I think, can also increase as we solve some of these problems that it just makes things easier for us.
So with the AI data platform now supporting multi-cloud and hybrid orchestration, and Oracle database also lives within, say, the other hyperscalers, how do you view the role of multi-cloud in accelerating enterprise AI adoption?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So just like we talked about, the AI data platform removes some of the problems that customers have to adopt AI, right? I think deploying the AI data platform on multi-cloud further enhances that. And I sometimes say to gaze into the future, it pays to look at the past, right? So multi-cloud is definitely here to stay. We at Oracle are very proud that we've broken down these walled gardens between the hyperscalers and sort of we've leveled the playing field. But if you go back to the origins, the dinosaur days again, when you were building database or data-driven applications, you had to first pick the hardware platform, then you picked your programming paradigm. And then you pick the workload, whether it's analytical or OLTP. And then finally, you got to pick your database. The database that ran on that platform that support that workload, et cetera. That was the way it used to be, right? Now, we changed that paradigm many years ago. We built the Oracle database. It's the same database that you could do transaction processing as well as analytics. We also made that same database be able to run on 140 different platforms. That's what we did about 30 years ago. So what happened is now you could pick your programming language, you could pick your hardware platform, and you'd have a consistent experience regardless. Giving customers choice really makes them accelerate development. So they didn't have to worry about whether it's going to run, whether that hardware platform had longevity or not. They just built applications and they deployed it. And that's kind of what got Oracle to where we are today. Now, we saw a massive gap in going forward. We saw that what was happening with the hyperscalers in the cloud was they were building these siloed walls of keeping the data in each cloud. And we could see that that's just going to be the barrier to AI adoption because it's a unnatural barrier, right? And so that's exactly what we sought to solve, again, because we figured customers want to have multiple clouds. They want to diversify risk. So what about if we could give them the same experience regardless of which cloud it is, the same commercial model regardless of which cloud this runs on, and the same, open standards, if you like, right? So everything that we do is based on, open standards that is completely portable on a cloud or onto on-premises as well.
Then from your vantage point in the Asia Pacific and Japan, how are you activating, say, partner ecosystems, and what are the roles they play in helping you to scale AI for customers then?
Yeah, listen, our partners are definitely a key enabler, right? And what we need them to move fast. I already alluded to the fact that it's going to move fast and it's going to solve multiple problems. So we need our partners to be there to help us scale really quickly. Now, as a technology provider, I think partners typically don't take a new product to market per se. They take solutions to market. And they certainly know how to accelerate a market and drive scale and reach. I'm very, very proud, especially this year. If you look at the last 3 years, the number of partner logos and sponsoring AI, Cloud World, which became AI World, is just multiplying, right? Orders more, which is great, which tells me that the partners see value in building a practice because they've got to build investment to build a practice around our stack, right? The fact that they're building a practice tells me that we're heading in the right direction. So partners are definitely there and going to be a big part of taking us and scaling this. Massive reaction in less than 24 hours from when we made that marketplace announcement. Less than 24 hours, I think we had about 100 solutions already that were submitted by partners. Not all of them were built, but they were submitting like intent to build, right? In the different specific domains. So, it's amazing when partners jump on board that quickly. It tells me that we're heading the right direction. And it tells me that the ecosystem believes that, which then gives our customers comfort because now they have scale, they have choice. They can pick a partner of their choice and deploy on a cloud of their choice, but get the outcome that they need. And that's what enterprises want. They don't want to be painted into a corner.
So what's the one thing you know about Oracle's AI platforms that very few people do, but should?
Well, listen, AI is multifaceted, right? So I think customers are now looking at this. When I speak to enterprises, they go like, they're either looking at consuming or they're looking at building. And somehow they see this as two divergent tracks. You either consume it or you build. And I think from an Oracle perspective, I think you shouldn't see that as divergent. We think that your AI platform should be convergent. What does that mean? So you consume as much as you can out of the applications. And we're doing that through our rich vertical industry applications, horizontal, and AI enabling. And then you just extend. So you're not building from scratch and you extend it because we use the same platform to build the agents and the applications as you would to extend. And the same platform is available across all the hyperscalers. It means that I can change the perception of, that customers think they have to pick the fork in the road. Do I go the build way? Do I go the consume way? And I'm saying to them, actually have both, right? It's not divergent, it's convergent. We can help you consume very quickly and then extend and build from that.
So now how important is openness? By openness, I mean open data formats, agent interoperability to Oracle's strategy. I mean, especially in this region where legacy systems are common. I also would grant the fact that Oracle owns MySQL, which is a pretty well-known open source database.
Yes, we do. I mean, listen, openness is absolutely critical, right? Absolutely critical. And AI and data strategy is completely open, completely ubiquitous. As you said, way back when we acquired Sun and the MySQL, I think there was a lot of conversation in the market that, Oracle was actually not going to continue with MySQL because we had the Oracle database. And at that point in time, we've always said that's not our intention. There's a right place for MySQL. There's a right place for the Oracle database. And we've continued that investment for, a decade and a half now, right? So openness is absolutely critical. Everything you see Oracle do will be portable. Like I said, everything that we're doing with, the autonomous AI lakehouse, everything that we're doing with MySQL and HeatWave is based on open strategy. It runs on my cloud, it runs on premises, it runs on my competitors' clouds as well. So our goal is to give customers a ubiquitous experience. And we do that and without any lock-in. So, whether that's using, iceberg formats or using the MCP, standards or using the Onyx standards, we're very, very standard-based. We typically don't fork open source projects and make our version of it. We use them natively as they are so that you don't have a lock-in in that sense. So I think if you look at, you won't be 50 years in a business by locking in customers, right? Our customers have complete choice today on where they want to run, how they want to run, how they want to access their data, structured, unstructured, document streams, time series. We support all of those things in a completely seamless experience across all of the cloud offerings.
I think, how do you now help CIOs to balance the need of what I call vendor choice flexibility, which I think you already pointed out when I asked you the previous question, with the need of now thinking about enterprise grade governance and reliability? I think this is a question that it seems to be on every CEO's mind about data governance, AI governance, etc.
Yeah, listen, I think this is a huge thing. I think this is still a remaining thought area, at least for the enterprise customers that we speak with. So just like we think multi-cloud is here to stay, I think we all would agree that multiple models are also here to stay, right? So not just multiple frontier models, and we know all the big frontier models, but there's going to be lots and lots of smaller models and specific industry and niche models. So there's a huge emphasis around the ability to bring a model of choice onto the platform, but not compromise on the governance and security. And so that's some of the things that we've built as native into the Oracle platform that I think is very, very differentiated. So for example, for you, let's start at I talked about the stack earlier. Let's talk at the infrastructure layer. At the infrastructure layer, we're giving our tenancies a level of isolation that they don't see in the other hyperscalers, right? So it's a very clean level of isolation. So when you bring, down to where you can declaratively declare your network packet routing, right? And we will enforce it for you. You cannot bypass those things through what we call the zipper protocol, right? And we're rolling that out. So you've now got an isolation level in the tenancy. Then on top of that, in the data level, regardless of the models that you bring in, and you can pick any of the frontier models or anything from Hugging Face or something you've developed in-house, okay? When you roll that into our Gen AI PaaS service, again, we declaratively define the security and the governance models. And so that's enforced at that level, right? So then you can swap models in and out, but the governance and the security and the access mechanism is still maintained, is still consistent. And so then you look at, and then the next level is what we do with the data in the AI data platform. Same thing, regardless of where your data is or where you shuffle your data, we retain the security and the governance. So I think when you have a full stack of full and consistent stack of security and governance at the infrastructure buckets levels, at the data layer, at the model layer, and at the application layer, then you can have a better trust index, if you like, as a CIO. And we show that to CIOs and say how you can build trust, how you have traceability in this, and how it's all declarative. So, and then what we do is out of the box, the ability to show governance reporting around where things came from and where things went. That level of transparency is important. And we're able to do that because we own the 4 levels of the stack, right? I don't see that being, as pervasive anywhere else in them.
I thought that was a very interesting point you made about that different 4 levels and how Oracle is holding all the stack together. I'm just thinking a lot in practice when we think about the marketplace also evolving. What are the challenges now you think about adoption? Is it mainly in talent, localization, or compliance?
Yeah, I think more and more, if you think about it, we used to talk about, data residency and data sovereignty, right? So,
Mm.
and I think it used to be a result, I used to hear in the cloud days, only a decade ago, we used to talk about that my data needs to reside in my country, right? But I think with AI and then agentic AI, you think about it, an agent is effectively an employee. It's an automated employee, it's a process, it's a workflow, right? Well, you want your employees to be within your ecosystem, within your firewall. So I think more and more, with AI, you're going to see there's a need to bring it closer and closer home. So that your data residency is no longer going to be the country, but it might just be within the enterprise, right?
Yeah,
So you see what I'm saying? So like,
I
you want
get
to
where
be,
you're going.
you
That's a
want to
very
be
good point.
inside.
Yeah.
So the ability to, and that's why I said in the very opening, I sort of said infrastructure, AI thrives at the edge, right? Because that's where inference is at the edge. So the edge is going to get smaller and smaller and closer to within each organization, within each enterprise. So I think the ability to bring the power of all of that as close as possible is important. And I think that's what we do with our ability to bring the cloud and shrink that down with all of the inference and all of those four tiers of the stack that I talked about inside an enterprise. That becomes a big thing. The second thing you talked about as well is talent and skills, right? And I think AI is going to help us with that. I think this is one of those areas where, we're going to use AI as like priming the pump, right? We can take, for example, I was talking to a large SI at AI World last week, and they were telling me they had a big practice, consulting practice that was already based on one of the competitor hyperscalers, right? That goes, we've got a whole bunch of skill sets there. We want to grow your skill sets. And I said, listen, AI can help you fix that because you take your reference architectures that you already have and your best practices that's for that deployment. And I can actually use AI to flip that and generate infrastructure as code that will meet your best practices in OCI. So I think that whole skills paradigm we can flip really quickly by using AI to prime the pump, right? And then the last thing you talked about was around operational maturity. I think that is also going to be, I think with AI and agents, automation that we can provide out of the box as a cloud provider. And I talked about the lineage and the governance. We need to surface more of that to make the customers, the business users, the CIOs more comfortable that they actually have control over this, because I think there's always this fear of the unknown, right? We need to make sure that they can see that they've got control over this.
So for large enterprises within the Asia Pacific and Japan, they have heterogeneous legacy estates. One question I really have, and actually it's two questions, but I want to see how you're going to answer that. How do you guide them to get AI-ready data without disrupting operations? So that's the first part. The second part is, what metrics do you believe matter most for these companies starting their AI journey?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go with the first one. So you talk about, without disrupting operations, right? So I think that's the first test. The first test would be when I go in and engage with a customer, we talk about AI, we talk about, we do some design thinking workshops around what do you want to get out of this? Because I think AI is all about the art of the possible, right? I don't go in there with something in mind. I go in there and say, what do you think we could solve together? And then the second test would be, how quickly would it take for me to do that? Now, if I go in and say, listen, I need to build a whole bunch of what I call scaffolding, and I need to change the data, I need to change the security policy, I need to move stuff around and build scaffolding, and I'll come back in 3 months with the answer. That's the wrong answer. Okay. I need to say, how about if once we've done this design thinking workshop, within a matter of days, maybe a couple of weeks at top end, without disrupting your data policies, I can show you this work. And I think that's important because, and again, that's what we've designed the AI data platform for. The word I use is the AI data platform respects. The word I use is it respects the security and governance models that you already have in-house, because the security and governance models you've built over the last number of years in a large enterprise has been there for maybe 10, 20 years. And I can't say you need to break this before I can give you an AI outcome. I need to say, what can I do working and respecting what you have in place? So, we've been doing these engagements. I think I shared with you last week as well, from design thinking to sort of a vibe built application, right? And then deploying that and being able to enable endpoint APIs to plug into that. And the customers can see a real working system, if you like, in a matter of a week, 2 weeks, right? that really opens up eyes when we say we can do
And
this
I
data
was
snapshot.
just in full respect of confidentiality. I heard you was telling me that you have done it for a customer, and then within like 2-3 days, you could actually show them something that is like a workable, viable product just to see how the scaffolding really looks like. I think that's really the great use of AI in this.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I promise you, we'll share some of those artifacts with you as well. In an upcoming time. But absolutely, whether that's the example I shared with you was the energy company. We've done another one with a very large conglomerate that's got retail, agriculture, logistics, and the ability to take a whiteboarding design thinking session and generate that into some sort of working model without ripping apart what they have in data. And, when they asked questions of this environment, it respected the data. So in other words, if I asked a question, I saw data that only I could see. And when you asked a question, you saw data that only you could see because we respected the policies in place, right? The second question you asked was around the metrics that matter here, right? And, I'm being a little bit cheeky sometimes when I talk to the CIOs about this. I sort of say, listen, how do you benchmark this? Well, it's like when you go to the gym. And when you go to the gym and you're running next to somebody in the treadmill next to you, you're not competing with them running on the treadmill next to them. You're competing with yourself. You're trying to better your personal best from yesterday or last week, or depending on how good you are and how often you go to the gym. But really, it's about going to the gym and better yourselves. So I think organizations are really looking at, you already know the benchmark, so you already know the metric of how you do that job today. Right. So you know how well you ran yesterday, and you got to say, I'm going to try to beat how well I ran yesterday today. So that's how I look at measures for success. Right. So when we talk to customers after we've done that design thinking workshop, we sort of say, well, why are we even doing this? Is it worth your time and my time? How much time does it take you to do this? And then we work out, well, what would be a reasonable, see, listen, now that I've brought the vibe experience down to a week or two, I'm not saying a year or two to test this hypothesis out. If I'm testing the hypothesis out within a week or two, then we can say, listen, okay, it takes me 5 days to do this task today. Can we make it half to 2.5 days? For example, I said, well, is it worth us investing 2 weeks together? Right. It used to be when you had a hypothesis to do transformation in an organization, to prove that hypothesis used to take 6, 9, 12 months and a lot of money, right? We're able to now get that hypothesis spinning really quickly. And then you can see how you want to measure it. And they go like, oh, this makes sense. You did make it half the time. Now let's go about what it takes to run. So I think, we're looking at a different way of quantifying success and benefits. The time horizon is a lot shorter. And so you're happy to invest. Most customers are happy. They have a board mandate typically to go and look at AI projects. So they're happy when we're in here with some tooling and some methodology and some capability, and not saying it's going to take you 6 months, saying it's going to take you a week, maybe 2 weeks. They're more than happy to work with us. And then together we define whether or not it was a successful outcome or not, and how do we scale that effectively. Right?
That's interesting, because I think that will also make it faster for enterprises to build some trust, at least on the interconnecting data platform layer. I think that's where a lot of the plumbing, people do not appreciate that a lot of the plumbing actually happens in that part of the stack. And if the process is speed up, then it also speeds up the process of adopting all the agent layer.
That's exactly right. I said, my job to the customers, I usually says, my job for you is to try to make the plumbing as transparent as possible. Right. And really just give you a power outlet that you plug yourself into. So really, that's it. If we can make the plumbing, and again, we have 50-year pedigree DNA in data management. And the problem statement today is data management. That is the problem statement, if you think about it, because AI is fueled by data, right? And so we have capability and we understand data replication, data synchronization. We understand that.
That goes to the roots of Oracle.
That's
from
exactly
the
that.
beginning to today. Data management. Very good.
That's it.
So
That's it.
what is the one question you wish more people would ask you about Oracle's AI strategy, but they don't?
I sometimes wish people would, we're in a world where today you can't walk down the street and not talk to somebody or bump to somebody. And, there's an AI conversation within the second sentence, right? Hey, whether it's a consumer or enterprise person you talk, it's always about AI. And I think sometimes it's easy to say that everything's AI. And the one question I think I want people to ask me is, why are you different?
Why are you different?
Why are you different, right? Why
Yeah.
is Oracle different? And I think my answer to that is two things. My answer to that is, we need to go from the superficial down to the depth. Okay. We need to get into the specifics to work out why you're different. Two reasons why we're different. Number one, we're the only player that plays in all four tiers of the stack today. High-powered infrastructure that pretty much all the frontier models train on. We have a data pedigree to bring all of the data into the fold of AI. We have a rich set of applications that basically powers industries today: banking, telco, utilities, construction, etc., healthcare. And we have an agentic framework that ties all of these things together seamlessly, whether you want to just consume AI or whether you want to extend and build on that consuming AI. So I think we're fundamentally different in each of those. And in each one of those things, it's not it's not a lowest common denominator. Within each layer, we're fundamentally differentiated as well, right? For example, my infrastructure layer, I'm fundamentally differentiated with the way I do network switching and the way I do declarative network security, for example, right? The data layer, I'm fundamentally differentiated because I'm the only one who can run on any other hyperscaler, plus on premises, give you the same experience without disruption. Nobody else can do that. Right. The application tier, I'm the only one that plays in all of these verticals. And then, agentic marketplace, and we'll build from the other three. So I think I wish people would sort of say, instead of saying everything's AI and what I call AI washing as opposed to whitewashing, AI washing everything, right? Get into the specifics. Hey, why are you guys different? Show me. And then get into a show me. And if they asked us that, I think we'd have some very, very productive conversations.
I really want to sit down in one of those design thinking workshops you have. So to just be a fly on the wall to see exactly what's going on.
Well, you know what? If I can get, obviously it's customer proprietary. So what we should do.
Well, I'm willing to sign an NDA.
Yeah. Well, we should find a customer that you already know, because I know you've worked in the market and in the industry as well. We'll find a customer that you already know, and more than happy to, to bring you in. Obviously, it will need their buy-in as well, but happy for you to be a part of that. Yeah.
And of course, it wouldn't be suffice to say that, Oracle is actually responsible for very, very big, large-scale infrastructure. If you think of the likes of OpenAI and TikTok, for example, you guys are running the actual infrastructure behind them. So my traditional closing question, what does great look like for Oracle in Asia Pacific and Japan as it builds out like the next generation of AI platforms and services?
Yeah. Listen, I think where we're going to be, in my view, is what looks great. We are the number one. We will become the number one AI platform for enterprises in the market, right? That's what we're going to be across Japan and Asia Pacific. And, it's going to be, and how do you rate number one? How I rate number one would be like, we're going to be powering the agents and the inference across the largest and broadest spectrum of enterprises in Asia Pacific, right? And I gave you some examples. We're already working on energy grids, for example. How do we regulate power between renewables and non-renewables using AI and agentic AI for that? We're already working in agriculture. We're working in healthcare. We're working in construction. We're working in fintech. And I think you're going to see a lot of those things. And like we have been for the last 50 years, Oracle tends to be the behind the scenes player. Our customers shine. We tend to be the platform player, right? And our customers benefit from that. So, for example, customers who've been using OpenAI and TikTok, as you mentioned, have been using OpenAI and TikTok for the longest time. They may or may not have known that it's powered by Oracle, right? If you're using the utilities, if you're using, putting your, ATM card in, you may or may not know you're actually being powered by Oracle. It's just the way we've been for the last 50 years. We're the underlying platform provider. And that's where we'll be. We'll be providing the AI infrastructure, the agentic processes across all of the industries. We'll be the number one across Asia Pacific. And I firmly believe that because we have a value proposition for all of these organizations.
Chris, many thanks for coming on the show. And really, this is probably one of the most interesting conversations I have on enterprise AI, given Oracle's breadth and depth of services across the entire stack. So in closing, two quick questions. Any recommendations which have inspired you recently?
Well, I read a book, I think it's called First Break All the Rules of First Break. I think it skips me now the exact title, but I think it reminds me kind of where we are today. We're in an era where it's time to break everything. norms of what we thought was possible, because I think AI is going to change everything, right? And almost every problem that we encounter, you want to take a contrarian view to it, because, let's go back to first principles. Don't worry about why we couldn't solve that or why we do it the way we do it today. First break everything. Break the norms and the perception of why we're doing it that way and why we can't do it this way. And let's see how we can do it completely differently. So I think I could see a lot of applicability of that in sort of what we're doing every day out here.
So lastly, how can my audience connect with you and follow Oracle's innovations in the Asia Pacific?
Well, firstly, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm relatively active on LinkedIn. And also stay tuned, because we're about to launch our developer series. So just like we talked to the enterprises, I think what we also want to do with Michael Smith, Bernard, who you know very well. Michael's going to spearhead that for us and launch a developer series where we are connecting some of these capabilities into the developer community and making sure that there's a huge level of awareness of what we want to do and can do with the audience in this market here. So stay tuned for that. I'll post it on LinkedIn, so will Michael.
Okay, and definitely you can find this podcast everywhere. And of course, subscribe to us on Spotify or YouTube, as well as our LinkedIn newsletter. So Chris, man, thanks for coming on the show, and let's chat again sometime soon.
Bernard, thank you very much for having me here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.